What if the greatest adventure of your life begins when most people think it's already over? Elara, a woman who carried the sun in her laugh and etched maps of joy on her face, found herself at the summit of 80 years. Not a summit of achievement, no grand career or overflowing bank account marked her ascent, but a summit of quiet observation, of witnessing the world in its tender ferocity. She lived alone in a small, vibrant apartment overlooking the bustling marketplace of Marrakesh, a city whose heart beat in chaotic rhythm with her own. Elara had always been a storyteller, not through writing or performance, but through the way she lived. Every wrinkle was a chapter, every shared meal a paragraph, every act of kindness a carefully chosen word, forming a narrative of resilience and love. But lately, the words seemed to be fading, the vibrant colors of her stories muted by a growing sense of unease. Her memory, once as sharp as a desert wind, was becoming a shifting sand dune, swallowing precious moments and faces. The marketplace, usually a source of endless fascination, began to overwhelm her. The cacophony of bartering voices, the kaleidoscope of spices, the hurried movements of vendors, it all blurred into a dizzying swirl. She felt herself retreating inward, becoming an invisible observer in her own life. One day, rummaging through a box of old photographs, she stumbled upon a picture of her late husband, Idris. He was young, handsome, with a mischievous glint in his eyes that always promised adventure. The photograph was taken in the Sahara Desert, a place they had both loved, a place where they had felt utterly free. As Elara gazed at the image, a wave of longing washed over her, a yearning for the vastness and silence of the desert, for the feeling of being connected to something larger than herself. The memory triggered something else, a half-forgotten promise she had made to Idris years ago, to climb the dunes of Erg Chebi, the gateway to the Sahara, and scatter his ashes there, so his spirit could forever dance with the wind. She had postponed it, year after year, life getting in the way, excuses piling up like unread letters. But the thought of traveling to the desert alone at her age seemed impossible. Her family, scattered across continents, would surely object. They saw her as fragile, needing constant care, unaware of the strength that still simmered beneath her weathered exterior. Then an idea sparked within her, as unexpected and bright as a shooting star. She would hire a guide, someone young and strong, someone who could help her navigate the challenges of the journey. And perhaps in sharing this experience, she could pass on some of her stories, reignite the fading embers of her own life, and finally fulfill her promise to Idris. Her search led her to Khalil, a young Berber man with the piercing gaze of a falcon and the quiet strength of the desert mountains. He was known in the marketplace for his knowledge of the Sahara and his unwavering respect for the land and its traditions. When Elara approached him with her request, he listened patiently, his eyes reflecting a mixture of surprise and curiosity. "Why now, grandmother?" he asked, using the term of respect common in Moroccan culture. "The desert is unforgiving. It is no place for someone of your age." Elara smiled, a faint flicker of the sun returning to her face. "Because, Khalil," she said, "life is unforgiving. And the desert is the only place where I feel truly alive. I have a promise to keep, and I need your help." Khalil, intrigued by her spirit and touched by her determination, agreed to be her guide. He cautioned her about the difficulties ahead, the long hours of travel, the harsh conditions, the physical demands. But Elara simply nodded, her eyes fixed on the horizon, her heart filled with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. The journey was arduous. The Land Cruiser bounced relentlessly over rocky terrain, the sun beat down with merciless intensity, and the nights were filled with the chilling silence of the desert. Elara's body ached, her joints protested with every bump, and her memory continued to play tricks on her, blurring familiar faces and names. But Khalil was patient and kind. He helped her in and out of the vehicle, shared his water and food, and listened intently to her stories, even when they wandered and repeated. He learned about her life, her loves, her losses, her dreams, and her regrets. He discovered a woman of remarkable strength and spirit, a woman who had weathered storms of unimaginable proportions and emerged with her heart still open, her capacity for wonder undiminished. One evening, as they sat around a crackling fire beneath a sky bursting with stars, Elara shared a particularly poignant story about Idris. She recounted their first meeting, their whirlwind romance, their adventures together, and the devastating illness that had taken him too soon. Her voice trembled with emotion, and tears streamed down her face, etching new lines into her already weathered skin. Khalil, deeply moved by her vulnerability, placed a comforting hand on her arm. "You loved him very much, grandmother?" he said softly. Elara nodded, unable to speak. "And he loved you," Khalil continued. "His spirit is here, with us, in the desert you both cherished." His words seemed to unlock something within Elara. She realized that she had been carrying the weight of her grief for far too long, clinging to the past, afraid to let go. But in the vastness of the desert, surrounded by the quiet strength of Khalil and the memory of Idris, she felt a sense of peace she hadn't known was possible. Finally, after days of travel, they reached Chepi. The dunes rose majestically against the horizon, golden waves sculpted by the wind, stretching as far as the eye could see. Elara gasped, overwhelmed by the beauty and grandeur of the landscape. Khalil helped her climb to the summit of the tallest dune. The climb was slow and painstaking, each step a victory against the limitations of her aging body. But with Khalil's support and her own unwavering determination, she reached the top. As she stood on the summit, gazing out at the endless expanse of sand, she felt a sense of profound connection to Idris. It was as if he were standing beside her, his hand in hers, sharing this breathtaking moment. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small, intricately carved wooden box containing Idris's ashes. She opened the box and, with a trembling hand, scattered his ashes into the wind. The ashes swirled and danced, carried aloft by the desert breeze, becoming one with the sand, the sky, and the eternal spirit of the Sahara. As she watched the ashes disappear, Elara felt a wave of release wash over her. The grief that had weighed her down for so long finally lifted, replaced by a sense of lightness and peace. She had fulfilled her promise. She had honored Idris's memory, and she had rediscovered her own strength and resilience in the process. They sat in silence for a long time, watching the sunset paint the dunes in hues of orange, pink, and gold. As the stars began to emerge, Khalil turned to Elara. "What did you learn, grandmother, on this journey?" he asked. Elara smiled, her eyes sparkling with newfound wisdom. "I learned that age is not a barrier to adventure, but an invitation to a new kind of journey," she said. "I learned that grief can be a powerful teacher if we allow it to be. And I learned that the greatest stories are not written in books, but lived in our hearts." The journey back to Marrakesh was filled with a quiet sense of contentment. Elara felt lighter, stronger, more alive than she had in years. She had faced her fears, fulfilled her promise, and rediscovered her own inner strength. Back in her vibrant apartment, overlooking the bustling marketplace, Elara began to write. Not grand tales of adventure, but simple stories of everyday life, stories of the people she met, the sights she saw, the lessons she learned. She wrote about the kindness of strangers, the beauty of the unexpected, the importance of embracing each moment no matter how small. She shared her stories with Khalil, who became a dear friend. He listened patiently, his eyes filled with admiration for her wisdom and her unwavering spirit. He realized that Elara had given him a gift too, the gift of perspective, the reminder that life is a precious and fleeting journey to be savored and cherished every step of the way. And so, Elara continued to live her life, not as an invisible observer, but as a vibrant storyteller, her face etched with the maps of joy and resilience, her heart filled with the sun of Marrakesh, and her spirit forever dancing with the wind of the Sahara. Her greatest adventure had indeed begun when most people thought it was already over, proving that the most compelling chapters are often written in the autumn of our lives. Perhaps the true wisdom lies not in avoiding the sands of time, but allowing them to sculpt us into something beautiful and unexpected.